Mercury in the second house, as told by Darius Grenando. These are people who value, communication, value their mind, how they think, how others think, they value, this could tell you if somebody values intelligence or values people who, tell jokes a certain way and they're just funny in the way they like say shit. Because the way they say things is just, it's what you like. You like hearing what they say. There's, people who, think creatively and like, they create things because it comes from their mind. I had this cool idea to, or this fun idea to, create this. So I'm creating this, because I feel like this will, make people feel certain ways. And I don't mind, getting their emotions, in a different way. And then there's people who just like, you know, communication um, is cool, but we don't not care about communication. We communicate a different way. We communicate through what we do. So like the actions we take, you have to see what we do. And then like you've seen that somebody's built something, right? Or has done something. And you're like, that to them is communication. Do you know what that means? They don't value the words and the conversations necessarily. They value the actions, and to them that is a way of communication. So people who have this placement, Mercury in the second house, you value communication, you value your mind and how it works, you value other people's mind and how it works, you value conversations essentially, but it plays out different ways for different people. So Mercury in the second house, when Mercury is in Aries, this person values their own mouth. When they have an opinion about something, anything, they're going to let you know. They're going to let you know what pisses them off. They're going to let you know what not to fucking do around them. And then they've let you know in a way that is like powerful. They did not, they weren't playing games. They were telling you what they fucking needed to say. You have to listen to them and like not do those things, or you'll see a side of them you don't want to see, as this is Mercury, right? And they value that about themselves too. I'm telling you this because I don't want something bad to come from it later on. Let's just get this on the table right now. I don't like this type of thing, so don't do it. Or don't say this type of shit around me because I don't like hearing shit like that. That type of shit, when I hear that, it pisses me off. That's somebody being forward about things, directly letting you know. They value that about themselves. And then in turn, some people value that about them, where others will like, wait or round until something happens and then shit boils over or whatever. They let you know from the jump, hey, I don't like this type of thing, or I prefer this type of thing, or whatever. They let you know right away. And they'll remind you that too once you've, done that. And they'll say, hey, and they'll be loud about it too. If it's something that ticks them off, they'll be like, hey, I told you not to fucking do that or say that. You better, change the fuck up, or I'm gonna, or don't say that shit no more. Don't move like that no more around me. Take your shit somewhere else. That's how those people act. That's how those people are. And they value that part of them. They don't give a fuck what you have to say because, again, like I said, they were direct and they let you know what the fuck is going on and how you're supposed to be around them. And that shows like that they care about themselves and they care about, how you operate in their, area, and how you have to be around them for things to move smoothly. If you're going to be their friend or, any type of, anything with them, even if you're just an acquaintance, But they value that about themselves, and then the people who like know about them value that about them too. Whereas other people like, let that shit, come and go, and let that shit slide every time. No, they'll, go off on you and be like, hey, I've told you that you can't do this, and you ain't gonna do this. They'll then cut people off and get the fuck away from them. Or they'll have those people get the fuck away from them. And that is Aries, Mercury in the second house. So they value their direct communication. And then people who care about them and see that, they then value that too about them. So then the Mercury in Taurus in the second house, this person values their patience, in thinking. So what do I mean by that? I know they won't say shit to like stir anything. They don't want to get into any type of conflicts, really. They want things to move slowly. So if somebody says something or whatever, they're going to be like unfazed by it, or like show that they're unfazed by it. They're just going to be like, oh, they'll probably write it off like, oh, that person feels some type of way right now. Because this person feels too. See, they understand that the other person just hurt or whatever. And like, you know, they're not going to get upset too much. It takes a while for a person like this to get upset. But what I'm saying here is this person values their thoughts too. And they communicate with people too, but they communicate only with ones who value their presence. And that's key with this person. People who value their presence and what they can bring, you know, they don't open up to just anybody. Usually they're sitting down and observing people. Typically, this person who has Mercury and Taurus in the second house too, and they like that about themselves. I don't have to be loud and like let people know anything. I just mind my own fucking business, be there, and I learn about things as things. I see things develop. I see things, and then I feel some type of way about it because this is Taurus, right? But it's just another day. I'm present. They like that about themselves too. They ain't looking at things and getting too excited about anything or letting their feelings really get them shaken, if you know what I mean. It's just like, this is what it is right now, and I see it for what it is right now. Now I can do things to get myself out of this situation or whatever, and I can because I know I'm a practical person. I can make things happen. I don't need anybody necessarily. I don't need the conversations. I need people to see my worth and like what I do. If people can do what I do and see and like that, that's important to me. So when I think about something as somebody who's like this, right, and this ain't me, this is somebody else who has this placement, right? I'm thinking about, I'm not going to allow things to get too out of hand. I'm going to, handle things, and I'm going to not get upset. I'm trying to build something up. That's why I'm trying to build something for myself so then I can then, help people that I love, people who may have helped me out along the way, or just people that I, love. They see that I love myself. They see that I, done what I needed to. And I'm also, like I said, dependable, and I can, give that type of help when I need to. But if I can't, then I won't even like say I'm here for that or anything. I'll be just there observing and seeing what can I do. These people don't seem like, really aggressive about things sometimes. But when they're doing things, they're making moves, and you'll tell because of like they won't have something, and then they will have stuff, but they'll still like be who they are. They value their time too, right? So they're not going to allow themselves to get caught up in these type of people who are doing um, just like too too much, just doing too much shit that they ain't doing. Like they have a goal in mind, they're gonna stick to that, and anything that's not that, they ain't gonna like fuck with. And it's to keep them stable, themselves strong, and they don't got time for it, so they ain't gonna fuck with it. It ain't no, it ain't even like they hate those people or anything necessarily. Now they can, you know, get irritated by that shit if somebody keeps pressing them about why aren't you doing this with us? Why aren't you? No, because I don't want to. I don't want to fuck with that shit. I have other things I have to do for myself. I'm not doing that right now. My mind is somewhere else. My mind is focused on, and that's key. They're focused and they're locked in on what they gotta do. Even on like days that are bad and shit, they are, still locked in. Oh, today was bad and this happened and I felt this way about this. But at the end of the day, I still see my goals and what I have to do. And I see what actions I've done in the now that are, moving towards those goals, showing that I'm like getting closer to them, or what I might have to work on to get there. But it's always there, you know, and I'm always making sure that I'm making sure I'm all right. Do I have my finances or do I feel, comfortable around in my environment? Am I around these type of people? If not, then, I should probably get out of here. I need to be able to build something in an environment that is, you know, right for me. But those people value their mind, but they ain't really communicators. It's like more you value me for what I do. And like I value myself because I know that I have the ability to do things. I can make a plan for myself and stick to it. And that's what they value about their mind. I have something in mind that is, something I can practically do. I can get done. I can get this kind of job, make this kind of money, sit on this kind of money, put money this um into this at this time, and then do this then, and but it's a process and it takes time, and I can be patient with myself. I ain't gonna get too upset. I might get upset. I actually might get upset, but I'm also not gonna like put that on somebody else. I'm not gonna be like, it's because of that person and that person. No, I'm gonna be like, that's me. I'm upset right now because of this. But that's just life, and I'm still moving forward because it's still, it still can be done. I'm still breathing, I'm still here, and it's that stick to it attitude and having that in mind, that type of mental fortitude, the consistency to keep at it, no matter what happens, no matter what type of situation you're in. And that's what they value about themselves, their mind, and then other people do value them too, but it takes some time because again, these people are not loud. It's like their actions speak, but again, these people move a little slower because they can get in their feelings at times. you know Things can, not overwhelm them, but they can get lost in the moment is what it really is. um so then this person, right, the next person is Gemini and Mercury in the second house. They value their mind and like what they can bring to their area. I'm the guy who knows about this, so I'm gonna, or female that knows about this, so I'm gonna let you know about this. And I just think that because I'm a person that likes to know stuff, right? I want you to know it too. It's just like I want to do you that type of, courtesy. I want to like let you know what the fuck's going on around here or what I've heard or anything. You know, just because like I would expect, or I, would like, somebody else to do that for me as well. You gotta let me know what the fuck's going on. I love conversation. I love, depending on the person, they love conversation, right? And typically, more mentally stimulating conversations. These people don't like dry conversations or things that don't go anywhere. Um, and like with if they're the ones talking and then it's like no back and forth. That's not a conversation. That's them talking and then somebody like they don't even know if you're like listening to them unless you're like having that type of back and forth. But even like I said, you could have that back and forth, and like they're just not, because like somebody who's like me or a little bit not like me, who's like more of an introvert will be like not fucking with that right now. Like I know you're trying to like tell me something that's going on, but I'm not looking for that type of thing right now. So I'm gonna like tell you, or I'll respond, but I won't. And like they probably wouldn't value a person like that, you know. And that's just how they are. They like those type of conversations. People who can't talk about things they ain't interesting enough. We're here to communicate and talk amongst each other, give each other ideas about what's going on and how we can, make things happen as like, people. We can't do that if we ain't conversating with one another. And then typically these people, and I like to say this too, because this is Mercury and like a true Mercury placement, um, they like to talk a lot, so they're gonna have friends. They like to, they value friendships, and like they kind of like make their money and like how their lifestyles off of that too. You know, I like to keep my friends around me, and I like to go out and um like mingle with people and shit. I like to be not, this person doesn't need to be the center of attention necessarily, but they need to be the one that's like, I need to like let you know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? If you're like doing something that's out of sorts, they'll let you know, hey, you probably shouldn't be doing that because in this area, these type of consequences can come from that, that type of thing. They can be that type of person. They can also, like I said, they can also just be that person that knows, like, tries to know it all, and let you know things, even when you don't want to. Like, we ain't trying to, like, even talk about that, but you're bringing it up anyways, because you need to, like, get that off your mind or whatever. This person values communication, and they value their mind as far as, like, getting information out there. I've heard about this. Oh, I want you to know about this. I've been doing this type of research on this type of thing, and I want you to know about it too. They'll let you know where their mind's at. They do that type of thing for people. You don't have to worry about me not knowing anything. I'm telling you things all the time, that type of deal. Um, and that kind of brings them some type of stability too in life. They value conversations. They'll keep their friends close. Try to keep their friends close. Um, the ones who like to hear what they have to say. Conversations are cool to them, especially when they're the ones who get to talk and let people know what the fuck's going on, what the fuck they got going on, what they're thinking about, ideas they have for things, and people actually listen to like every detail and everything. And they have back and forth, and then from that they can build something, you know, and that's how they build shit in life, and they build their value. They value people essentially. In the conversations that can be had amongst one another. And yeah, that's what they value in life. You know, Mercury in the second house, when Mercury's in Cancer, this person values, emotions, their emotions, the way, they feel, right? But it's like in Mercury, so it's like, people get triggered by things, right? And then they can, get emotional about things. But it can also be a good thing, they kind of like to, like I said, this person likes to hear about people's sobs or don't mind, you know, this person knows that, people get hurt and like they themselves have been hurt. So they don't mind hearing about that shit. But at the same time, this person can not like that, depending on who they are. But they do end up valuing it in the long run though, because guess what? These people um, are typically wiser and shit, and they're like, I like to know, like, not just, what's going on in like the positive sense, like, oh, okay, that's cool and all, this, that, or um, we're having fun doing this and that, but is there anything that's like deep? Like, how's your family, and like things like that. They like to get to like those type of underlying things, and like they have deep conversations with other people, and then these people can also like get creative about things. Let's come together, um, and like create something together. It could be, something artistic. It could be something that is, you want to come and, confide in me with, anything that you feel like you can't talk to somebody else, then you can come talk to me, because I'm probably, feeling some type of way about something, as a person, and then you're there for me. And then like you get create those type of connections that are deep and other things, and you're like, oh, they value people that pay attention to that type of shit with them, like their deeper side, and like the shit that other people probably don't care about. I don't care about the, oh, somebody did this to you and now you're, like this because of it. You feel deeply hurt because of this and that, and then like the time and energy you put into a relationship that is, whatever, people don't got time for shit like that. But then you value those people who like kind of want to know about that and want to know you on a deeper level, like who created you, and or like created you to be the person you are today. You know what I'm saying? Like the past matters to this person. You know, it ain't like you were here and you just were like that. It took all kinds of things. What made you like that? You know, what like type of people? But it's like, because this is cancer, right? Like what type of people molded you into the person you are today? That's what they like to be. And then from learning that, if you're like a person that like cares about your past, cares about the people who like you know created you, or like helped create you, turn you into like who you are, or played a role in that. If you don't value like that type of thing, they ain't gonna like you. You don't like your family or the people who like help cultivate the person you are, like help build you into the person you are, then they're gonna look at you a little bit sideways and be like, you're not here in this life to like learn about other people and experience things with other people. You're just here, I don't know, you just don't get it. To those people it's like that. You're not here, you're not trying to develop, you know from, and then bond with somebody on some things that way. Your relationship with your mother, they look at shit like that too. you know but because these people are emotional and shit, and then they think in that way. But I also said these people could be creative and other things, but they also don't like they don't like people who are too self-centered and shit, and are loud about it, and then people who just want to communicate about what's going on, and they can deal with that or whatever, because these people again are wise, so they understand that those type of people exist, but they're looking for people who are like willing to like dive deeper into something and get to like you know the past and the this and the that and those type of things. um sometimes it's shit that people don't want to talk about. you know Sometimes it's shit that it hurts them, but like they want to know that these people like that. But like these people also, because these people are wise, they won't force it. And if they do force it, like a conversation like that with somebody, they're gonna try to be creative about how they're gonna like get that out of them and shit. Like, oh, I want to know about you and other things. They're gonna like talk nice and seem very understanding of what you've been going through. I feel that, I was in a similar situation myself, but like, you know, that's how they are. They like to creatively manipulate, things to suit their needs. but like they find value in like the deeper, you know, knowing somebody on that level. They can just they feel more secure, if you know what I mean. If they know about like where you come from and shit like that, they value people who know about their past and like what it did to them, like the people who crafted them and the importance of that. It's kind of like those people. I ain't one of those type of people myself. The Green Angel is not like that. But those people exist, and those are the type of people. The people who have Mercury and Cancer. And then they like don't like to talk as much. They do, but like again, they like to be the one who listens to what people have to say because they don't mind hearing about somebody's past and what like who made them who they are. Because that's how they're thinking about it. But um, this next person is Leo and Mercury. Mercury, Leo in the second house. This person values their thoughts and what they got going on, right? But it's like their vision, so they need people around to make it happen. But they also, and it's not like that. They value what they see, and they know that they need to have people really fuck with what they see. I see us doing this together, and I know that if you stick around me, the individual in question, who has these, ideas, and I know you see what I got going on because I am not one to let shit not be on display or like people know about me, whether they hate me or not. I don't care. If I'm trying to like make something happen for me, I know there's people out there who's gonna fuck with what I got going on. I don't care about the haters that much. They're gonna be there and they're gonna just feel what this is too. You know, I don't mind, getting them out of sorts or whatever. I don't mind, that, if you fuck with me, you're gonna have a fun time. They value themselves in that way. They value their vision, what they see. They basically seek people who will like, fuel their vision and make it, what they want it to be. Um, and like, sometimes these people can, dismiss people as well. You don't want to um, do things my way, so now I'm gonna cut you the fuck off. And to them, they have to do that because I'm I have this laid out in my mind, and it's supposed to work this way. Now we can like, work together and have fun and everything, but ultimately it was because of me. You need to like always give this person some type of, credit, you know, for what they do and bring to it because they have the confidence to like step up to people and let them know um, when they're doing wrong or when they feel that, other people are doing wrong, they're gonna let you know like, hey, why are you doing that? You're gonna piss me off or you're gonna like make other people in my circle mad because of and that's why people value them because they have that confidence about them and they'll like fight for the people that stick around them in their group in the group that they run this person who has this Leo Mercury in the second house and they value that part of themselves. They do. They like that. They like um making things fun when things ain't, you know bring a smile to their friend's face, and then they don't care really about what other people have to say who ain't in that circle because they ain't doing that for them, and they actually are though. Some of them are, and they don't care. They like to see people who like basically hate them but still acknowledge like who they are by hating them. If you know what I mean, they hate you, and you know why they hate you, and you're just gonna keep doing it because why not? I have to live my life, and that's how I'm gonna live my life. If you don't like it, you can't, focus on me or not focus on me. But if you focus, you can't be mad because you're focusing on me too much, that type of thing. And all the people that I have, and all the, and then this person, like I said, they value their vision of what they got going on, and then, like, they'll stay away from some people sometimes, and they will stay away from some people sometimes who they might view as a threat or a roadblock to what they got going on. They won't acknowledge certain things that other people might see in that person because they don't want to do that. They want people to see them for who they are, so they ain't gonna like let other people know anything that's gonna, like, fuck their vision up, whatever they got going on in their mind, and what type of fun they're trying to have and have, like, continuously. And like certain things do tick them off. Again, this is fire sign, so they're gonna let people know if, like, hey, if you're trying to hang around me, you gotta, like, kind of operate like this. If you can't do that, then you gotta please, stay away, or, only come to me when you're, like, seeing what I got going on, and, like, you want to, like, hang out with your friend that's, fun, and does this, you know but they value the people they keep around. They like to be the center of attention, and they value people who value their vision, what they have and what they're trying to accomplish. They like those people, and they'll, like, keep those people close. They will fight for those people. So, like, what I'm saying here is, like, these friends that see their vision and want that to come to fruition, they will go to fight for them. They find out that something's happening to their friend that, like, helps them out all the time, they'll go fight for them. Hey, stay away from my guy that doing this to me. What the fuck do you do to you? Or what did she do to you? To, and they'll be like that friend that's actually, like, defending their friends and shit. If they ain't too, like, arrogant about, like, who they are. There's positives with this too. Because this is a Mercury placement, so, like, this happens in the mind, the vision, and everything else. But that's a good thing if you're standing up for your friends and shit, and then keeping them around. And this person is able to do that. So they value their vision, and people value their vision too, and stick around them. And that's how they build character in life. They do it that way. But Mercury and Virgo in the second house, this person values their analytical skill, the way they methodically plan things. You know, you can see what they got going on or not see what they got going on, but they're going to continue to do what they do because, they just got to. I see this and it's just going to bother me. I see something that needs to be improved upon. I ain't going to let it, like, just sit there, Now, some people, um, will hold their friends to a high standard too. So if they see you slacking off or, not doing things to the best of your ability, this person's gonna, like, ride your ass a little bit. Like, why'd you, do that? Do it like that when you're supposed to have, like, if you're doing, like, push-ups, right? You can't have your ass in the air. You ain't keeping a linear, passion, goddamn form. You have, like, shitty ass form when you're doing push-ups. Damn well you're supposed to be doing your push-ups like this. Keeping them in at 45-degree angle, back straight. No, like, sagging or keeping your ass in the air or any of that. Chest down. Back up. That type of thing. They'll keep you in line. They'll critique you, and, like, not just a little bit. You know, they'll make sure you have a perfect form, like, for real. And that's just an example. There's other ways they do it. Because, like, the way their mind works, they're designed to pick up on details and things other people just wouldn't catch because they're just too caught up in themselves or too caught up in, I don't know, their feelings about shit or something, and they just, like, they can see things develop. They know how people move a little bit, and then they're like, okay, this person's more likely to come out of here like this and with this because of certain things that this person saw them do. When they lock on other people and things, but this person likes to think more than talk. They like to their actions to show what's going on. They don't mind saying some shit, but if they open their mouth, they're gonna tell you some things that you might not want to hear. If they like care about you, or maybe they don't, and they just like are ticked off by like your behavior, and you're like, they'll be like, you need to shape up in this area, whereas I'm doing this, you're kind of, fucking around too much doing this and that. They like to, nitpick a little bit and critique a lot, but and then they also question things too that don't seem right, and they'll be like, that don't sound solid enough for me. I don't think I can trust shit like that. There's not enough like information. There's not enough. That sounds, or like basically that sounds too foolish to like be a thing. You know, these people be like that, and then um like they value themselves for being like that type of mind. Critiquing things and like improving upon things that other people just won't see because their minds just don't work that way. They ain't analytical enough. They ain't methodical enough about planning things out. Just know that I'm always gonna say that about the Virgo energy and shit, because that is how it works. I've lived in a house full of like Virgo energy, so I know what the fuck's going on. You know, they are like that. They like to critique people, and they like to like keep people from like they want to see people do the best that they can do because they themselves always try to do the best that they can do because they see things that other people just don't see. you know Very detailed oriented people, they value that about themselves, that type of thinking, and then like acting on it, because this is earth, practical. We can do things to make things better. you know I have to write things out and then keep a schedule and stick to that schedule in a specific way, very specific way. I can do that, and I won't allow myself to slip up, and then I won't allow my friend or my loved one to slip up either. And I will wring their ass and other things, because guess what, I want you to be better too. And that shit can be annoying too, and I know too, but they do. They value their mind, and then they want you to like think a little more, think a little bit more about the details. The small things matter type shit, with this person, and they value that part of themselves. It ain't a like feeling thing, it's a thinking thing. Can you fucking think about things like fully, thoroughly, like thoroughly? Have that mental fortitude to like keep thinking like that. you know Not just one day, you're hitting the books hard, or not even hitting the books hard, because it's not, necessarily about that, but, you have to do that too sometimes. But, you're gonna like think a little more before you do some shit, you know? And they value their mind and like the way they think, and they will also hold other people to the same standard, and they do value like their mind in that way. And if they have to like tell somebody that they care about, or somebody who just ticked them off, like why they are wrong about what they're doing, then they'll lay it on them. You're probably doing this wrong, and you got to like shape up in this fucking area of your life if you want to get like me. If you don't, then I'm always gonna be like this, and you're gonna have to eat it. But that's that. They value their mind, and they value criticism, and they value criticism from others too, what they can improve on, because sometimes they're the ones that need critiqued as well. So this next person is Libra, Mercury in the second house. This person values conversations with people. they value, you know, being a communicator that can, bring people together under certain ideas and like, be the person to do that. To them, that's fulfilling and shit, right? They like to let people know what's going on, figure out what's going on with somebody else through conversation, because this is wind, right? So they like to talk and give information to people um, that can possibly help them out. They know something that can just like help somebody like live better or like be better as a person, because like they live by certain ideas and shit. Um, like again, they're not as smart as, or I won't say not as smart as, not as quick-minded as a Gemini or a Virgo, but they're kind of like a Taurus in that they understand that people have feelings and shit. So they'll come across people in a way that is more calm, but still powerful. You know what I'm saying? They use their manners and shit when they talk to people. They talk like they know what they're talking about, 'cause typically they do if they're opening their mouth. And they're gonna like let you know out of the goodness of their heart, and they're like, yo, or hey, maybe you should, think about, doing this, and they'll like probably use words like that. Um, and they'll be, loud or whatever. It ain't about them being loud. They ain't gonna be loud about it. They're just gonna let you know what they need you to know so you can, then improve as a human being. And to them, that's what they get satisfaction out of. I like to, talk to people and help them, a little bit through, the information I know. And I'm going to present it to them in a way that's not so like chaotic or anything. It's like serious to them too. It's not just a game and shit. I want you to know this so that you can then be, like I said, a better human being. And like, again, they ain't going to be, they're gonna try to present things in a way that's consumable to you too, because they understand that people are, and they know that people are different. So like, there's people who are smart and people who are fucking stupid. They know this, but they're gonna still approach everybody like basically the same way, you know, for the most part, and like they're gonna be the one who is calm, gracious, like calmly speaking, clearly speaking to other people. Um, so like that information gets to you too, because they understand this or they know this. Like if I'm presenting it that way, it's gonna like stick with you as opposed to me getting loud and obnoxious or like talking too fast or they're gonna you know talk you know calm, cool, and collected with you, and like they value that part of themselves, and they value like that. If I know that people are doing all right, like in my mind, I just know I talked to so and so today, so um, maybe in a couple days I'll see if they took my advice or not, and if they got better, that type of thing, and they like to do that. Those kind words, and then that gets somebody somewhere. It lets them know too that they're a smart person in like guiding somebody on their journey through life, or just living day to day, whatever. I had that to give to them. I know other people might not have approached these people, because this person's also not fearful of a conversation. They'll approach you and they'll talk to you and get to know you a little bit, not like any type of like any deep way, like just get to know your name and like what you do and like that type of thing, not nothing too deep or anything. And then they always know that that's oh, I talked to so and so today, and that's a close acquaintance, or that's a good friend if he keeps coming or she keeps coming around, that type of thing. And I can also, let go of them because, I know that they're living their lives and they're doing their thing. And then also I have questions about other things and other people too. But, they know how to also, like again, keep friends and acquaintances, and they don't get shit fucked up, and they value their time too, even though it might not seem like some of them, are more gossipers than other people, and will like talk about people that they have more interest in, and they'll like say, "Hey, my friend, this is doing this. Do you guys, And they'll like try to like go out and like do too much, for a person sometimes. If they feel like said person can't speak for themselves, or their message ain't getting across right, and they don't have to do shit like that. Um, but bless their hearts and shit. They will try shit like that. They will. Um, because they know that they're smart, and they know that they can think clearly about things and communicate to people, and that's what they do, and they value that part of themselves. We can talk kindly to people and still be like very serious and very like this need like actions are needed to be taken you know, in this way or that way, but they can, articulate themselves in a calm and presentable manner that's, not gonna cause too much like conflict or, backlash. And that's a good thing to value like about yourself. And then other people value that about you too. Oh, this guy or this person was out of the goodness of their heart, or like just letting you know, like you shouldn't do that, and people know you to then be a good person in that way too. That you will go out of your way to talk to people when other people won't talk to them just because you know you just like to know, and you like to help people out in that kind of way. You're a good conversationalist, and you um, value that about yourself and others. The people who like to come back to you and talk to you about what's going on with them, and then appreciate you for again being kind and gracious with your words. Letting them know exactly what it is without being too extra about anything, just giving information, and then letting people go and do what they need to do. Um, now, the Scorpio, Mercury in the second house, this person values deep connections too, but more so, they value a person's like true guts, if you know what I mean. Like, what are you willing to do to achieve your goals, that type of thing. And they think about people in that type of way. I don't know if I can like be like real friends with you or anything, and like this person ain't gonna like let you know. They're kind of just like gonna stay the fuck away from you, typically, because this is Scorpio. Some people will let you know, but some people won't, and they'll just like ignore you and be like, I just don't fuck with that person. They just don't show enough grit, enough. You're willing to do this to get what you want, even if it's like not seen in good taste. Um, and like things like that are kind of important to somebody, because if I know you're goal oriented and you like actually achieve what you're trying to do, despite what other people might say about you, then I can fuck with you, and I can like grow and develop with you as well, um, as a person. Um, and like we can be really tight too, but I need to see that side of you first. I need to see that you can do for yourself, and that you can stand on business for yourself through the bad times and the good times, both. And then also you gotta like also value like your desires. So basically you can't um if they think that you're gonna like put yourself aside for somebody else, that's a weakness to them. They just don't like that. So you say you're gonna do this and that, but then you're gonna put yourself aside for other people and like forget about what your goals are, you ain't gonna like improve or, you know, become better like that person that you want. You ain't gonna transform into that person you want to become. You're gonna put your, you know, shit aside and, you know, let things just, I don't know. You're just gonna be somebody else's like side. You're gonna be a side character, you know. And this person like ain't gonna let you know that, right? But they're gonna let you know by their actions. They'll be hanging out with these people instead of you. That type of thing. You know, they value a person's determination, but like their desire to go get it. You know, are you willing to, you know, put it all on the line for this? You know, if you are, I can get behind you. I can be your friend. If not, then I'm probably not going to like. And these are the type of like thoughts they have, and it's not so like any type of based on any type of like real thinking. Really, it is though. If you think about it, you know, it's based upon like, are you gonna do this? Are you not gonna do this? Are you gonna move this type of way? Or are you gonna move this type of way? Mm-hmm. And they know that true guts comes from within too, because they also know that they ain't gonna just look at somebody who's barking too. You know, you're saying shit and you're getting loud and all this stuff, but do you really mean what you say? You know, this person looks at like the actual actions that are being taken towards that goal. It ain't about you just saying it and letting other people know that you're doing this. You know, like, are you actually doing what you say you're gonna do? Because that's introverted Mars energy, and they value that about themselves and then other people too. And that's typically how they make, you know, friends and their relationships, you know, last longer, you know, by picking and choosing based off of that. So they value a person's like drive, what drives them to do what they do. And if you don't show like that drive, that effort type thing, they ain't gonna like you that much. They'll probably just stay the fuck away from you. Um, but these other, oh god damn, sorry about that. I'm going through some other signs now. Sagittarius on the Sagittarius Mercury in the second house. This person values exciting things, something that excites their mind. So they see something and they're gonna do it right then and there. Like, I want to go to this type of thing, this type of, you know, junction, or I'm gonna start my own type of fun and I'm gonna do it right now. You know, I'm gonna have a party and then these people are gonna come through and it's gonna just be, you know, we're gonna do it. You know, and that's what it's gonna be. You know, let people know and it's gonna be fun. You know, this person is like not wasting time to get into, you know, these type of things that they want to do, the things they want to experience in life. They value that type of thing, the experiences. They're like, what can I experience in life? You know, I don't care if other people tell me it's like, you know, not worth doing or anything, but I'm still gonna do it anyways. You know, that type of thing. Because I need to experience that for myself. Because they know that those other people ain't them, and that they want to do something like that, have fun in that kind of way or that kind of way, that they're gonna do it, and they're gonna do it when they feel like doing it. So if they see like doing it right then, they're gonna seize that opportunity. They ain't gonna like wait. You know, somebody tries to tell them, "Hey man, you know, wait until you know this." You know, some of these people are like, "I can't wait that long, and I need to do it like now, because if it ain't now, then it's never." You know? and they like don't like people who would like, I don't know, just wouldn't attack, opportunities and other things. They kind of don't like those kind of people, since they're people who, since this is a person who would, seize the opportunity, even if it's like risky, even if people don't want them to do what they want to do, they'll still do it because they have to. And then they'll learn from it, and have that for somebody else. Because this person becomes wise from, doing things on impulse. And even if it was a bad experience, they learn from it. They know that they themselves can't be around that type of environment, or probably wouldn't do it that way again. That type of thing. But you don't know if you don't do or don't try, to like do it. Whenever you got fucking do want to experience, you gotta do that. Not let people hold you back, and they won't let people hold them back. And like they value that in other people too, because that's somebody I can have fun with. That's somebody I can trust to like not stab me in the back. And like if we're having fun doing some things, and other people might not be about it. We don't listen to those people. We keep having fun. um, you know, but they like to also again be the ones that are acknowledged for being that type of person. And they like that too about themselves. They're gonna let you know if you're like fucking up in that way. You want to keep me away from experiencing these things I want to experience in this life. I'm gonna let you know why you're a shitty person, or a person I just don't fuck with. I don't fuck with you because of this and that. So they value that type of thing. Their blunt language, you know, unfiltered, talk. I just want to say this. Da, 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 da. And it's not something pretty. It's calling you ugly. It's calling you. It's calling you all kind of things that you didn't want to hear, but they're gonna tell you out of the goodness of them. Like, cause like, why am I gonna like? It's just like, why am I gonna hide it when you probably know already? But I want to be the one to like let you know. That's what it is. If you want to like fuck with me or not, that's what it is. I don't see you the way you see yourself. I see you as the, that type of thing. And, people value them. Like, oh my God, that hurt my feelings. But at the end of the day, nobody else is saying that. Nobody else is saying how what I do is like lame or anything else because of this and that. But you told me right away to my face. You weren't hiding anything. So I like that. And people value that about them, and they like that about themselves. Because when they die, they want people to know what they've done. Like they've done everything. They've lived it. Um, but this next person is Capricorn Mercury in the second house. This person values their time and their effort they put into things, to doing things, to like building what they want to build. They want to build a career, they want to build a house for themselves. And this is daddy like energy, right? So Saturn energy like that. They don't want to lose their ass. They want to be on top of things at all times. They want to keep that sense of urgency. There's always something for me to do. So I'm going to do it. If like I think that I can do something right now, I'm going to do it right now. And like I'm not going to like I don't really give a fuck if like you are going to do it with me. That's cool if you do, or like whatever, but I need to do that because I know I can do something right now to make my um situation better for me. And that's how their thinking goes. And it's more like fast moving like that. Because they know if they, have, things and they have shit taken care of, um, then people can come confide in them, But they also value and like they think and they see things too, right? If you are not somebody who's gonna do things for yourself, you know, sacrifice a little bit, I can't, I'm not gonna wanna give to you. I'm not gonna wanna be your friend at all. I wanna see you work for something first. You know, that type of thing. Because I had to like stay disciplined and do this and do that, even when I didn't want to, even when I felt like I couldn't. So now I want you to like kind of like do the same thing. You know, you have to kind of show me some things first because I had to show myself that I could stay disciplined and not fuck around with, you know, people and really stick to, you know, what I got going on, what I'm trying to build for myself. So I want you to now do that too. And you have to like kind of show like the urgency too. Like you have to do it. Like there's always something for you to do. It's not like you're gonna like take any days off, no days off type shit. You know, we don't stop until we reach our goals. You know, we want to have this type of house, or well, because it's like this person. But like I'm saying, because it's Mercury, right? So they're thinking about things. I only want to surround myself with people who are like that too, not somebody who's gonna be fucking around all the time. And we are trying to, you know, grind hard and, you know, make something of ourselves. You know, stick to the goals that we have right now, accomplish those things, and then later, you know, after we've acquired those things, that status, that those, you know, things that we need in life to like look like we have our shit together. Or like, well, really, we'll be having our shit together because we go to work, we go to the gym, we work out, we stay the fuck away from anything that is toxic that will like fuck with us on our way to doing this. You know, it's about making money. It's about, you know, stacking things up for ourselves. You know, we instead of like splurging on shit we're not going to. You know, and it ain't about like being loud about shit. If people understand what's going on with us, that we're like grinding hard and other things, that's cool. You know, but if they don't, then they don't, because they'll find out later when we have shit. You know, and we have our, you know, acts together. You know, because it's like gonna be us looking at them like, you know, I thought you said that I was, but now I have this kind of car and this kind of, because I stayed disciplined and grounded, and like it ain't like you're gonna be the one saying like too much. It's like the actions speak for themselves, and then these people like years later are like, damn, you know, so and so really, you know, put the fucking work in and became, you know, I should have like not fucked around with my other friends and hang out with him, you know. Learn something, you know, but you know, they value their discipline and they're like, you know, hard like stick to it type of goal things too. But unlike like the Taurus and like maybe the Virgo too, they ain't gonna like think too much. They're gonna like think. It's thinking because you still have to like, you know, not fuck yourself up. Like, you know, you ain't gonna associate with these type of people because these type of people aren't gonna work hard. It's not so like methodical and so like too detail oriented to the point where you're like gonna be like, oh, this is daunting now a little bit. And it ain't like we're gonna get too, you know, slow about shit. You know, we ain't gonna be like, oh, um, things will happen on this day, or you know, today I don't feel like doing it as, you know, we'll ease off a little bit today. You know, no, we're doing everything the same way every day. You know, we're going to work at this time, we're doing this, we're sticking to that. And then once we like, that's when we stop and we like see what we've done in the fruits of our labor and shit. We have to stick to doing that. We can't not be doing something to improve ourselves as individuals, people. you know, and then I'll hold, other people to it. Like I said before, this person is gonna like be like, you want me to do something for you, but you ain't doing anything for yourself. I'm not gonna do something for somebody that don't want to do something for themselves. That ain't how this shit works. You have to show me that you can, do something for yourself before I even think about doing that. Because my time is valuable too. They value that time as well. Um, but yeah, these people. This is a good placement for somebody though. This is somebody that like won't fuck around too much and like will um, make sure that they have their um, shit together and like so there's some be somebody that you can confide in, about like some advice about, where I should put my money in or how I should, go about getting this type of career or something. There's somebody who's like knows their shit as well in that way. But this person who has Aquarius and Mercury in the second house, they value their mind and, thinking outside the box a little bit, whereas some people will like, dismiss some things that other people don't want to talk about. This person is gonna like talk about those type of things that are a little bit more controversial or something like that, to like get people's minds thinking in that type of way. Did you ever think of doing like this type of thing? You know, that this could be a possibility for humans, um, and like that type of thing, and like what it would take for things like that to be like commonplace and stuff in like human society, that type of deal, but this person thinks like that all the time, and actually people value those type of people, and this person knows that, because and like you're gonna like pose these questions too, because see, this is when you're not gonna keep these questions to yourself, you're gonna pose these questions to people, and you understand that you're gonna be met with, people who don't think that's a possibility, and people that do, and people that really, really do see it your way, or like not see it your way, but see, what you're talking about, you know, gonna come together and like make shit, make it a thing, that other people know about. Because like again, it was like people like this who have this type of mind, who created the car and like invented or innovated things, um, and like had the idea to have people look at things that way. Because before it's like, and I like to use that as an example with the equation because that's how it works. In those times when people were riding on horses and shit, right? There's that one person who's like, well, we're riding on a horse and buggy, but what about a vehicle that can like move down the street without the use of these horses anymore? We don't need to use horses anymore. But it's like something that's so like different because like nobody's heard of shit like that. See, that's how it was. But then now, in our time now, if you don't have a car, it's like, how are you getting around? What's going on? But like it took somebody to like, talk to some other people who were thinking about different ways of transportation and like coming together and then like, writing the, blueprints for that said car and then getting it off the ground and then, hundreds of years later, 100 years later, people are fucking driving around, and it's like common. If you don't have a car, you can't get around. You can't drive. You and it's quicker and it's more efficient. Like they took all these things into account. You get down the road, much faster than riding that horse. And then that horse doesn't have to be needed, and we don't have to like buy horses and buggies. We just have to and things change with time, and they made rules for, cars, and they had to pave roads, and, it's just kind of like revolutionary type of thinking because they think outside the box because they like focus on like something that can be improved upon that other people don't see certain ideas that they have, and then other people have those like similar ideas and they come together and they, network amongst themselves, and things become, commonplace, or like, sometimes it don't, but that's how it works with this person. They basically value their, outside the box thinking. Outside the box thinking is not what you think. Outside the box thinking is not some shit that other people think. It's like getting like people like in general to think a little bit more, like, did you know that that's a possibility? Not like forcing something down somebody's throat, but like, I wanted to enlighten you to this type of information. Not that, just letting you know that that actually is a possibility if you like sit down and think about it. That type of deal. Now, the last person, which is Pisces, Mercury in the second house. This person values basically wisdom and creativity in themselves and other people. So in life, there's, hard times, and then there's, good times. We like to, make things positive from the negative things. We also, like to understand other people's pain sometimes, if we like care about them enough. This person, by the way, likes to do shit like that and like kind of delve into that, because then they have that wisdom moving forward. And if I see another person like that, I know if I want to stay away from them or if I want to like help them out. Again, this person's mind works a different way. This person, again, this is why they see depth in a person. Whereas somebody like me or another person would be like, oh, that's just another person that is, um, just another person. I don't know what the fuck they do. I'm not thinking like this person is. This person's kind of thinking, oh, what kind of, struggles this person might have, or, but of course, this person too also has to be intrigued by said person they see on the street, or, going about their day to day. And then they want to like change that person's mood, right? To fit, what they got going on, because they see potential in somebody. I want to help them out of this situation. I'm a creative guy or girl. I can come in, swoop in, and be like a savior to them. This is like their thinking going into things. This is Mercury in Pisces. And then they also speak a certain way too. Um, like very like understanding of somebody's situation, like as like they feel somebody else's pain, but again they can also feel somebody's excitement too. You can make a person who's like this, right, because this is Pisces, right, so they might seem a little more reserved, but you can get them to be excited too by like you showing a lot of energy towards something, and they're like, wow, that is fun. I feel what you mean when you say this is like really cool, or exciting thing. You can, it's like they can do that to people, but then themselves can then be moved by other people's, words and like their actions too, in a like great way. They can start then being more, you know vocal when they might not want to be. But it depends on the individual too. If they see something and it's not interesting to them, they won't even open up. They'll just keep going about their day. But if they like feel like, you've like made them feel better, they'll be like, hey man, I like what you got going on here. What are you doing, or this and that. They'll like even like be like cool enough to like, feel another person's vision or whatever, because again, this person is one who likes to create those deep connections. And like, I don't mind being a person that's just the side character or whatever in somebody's life, because for me, it's like I get to like live with, or experience what this person has to offer, and I wanted to experience this person for what they are. They showed this type of energy, and I liked it, like being around that person. So I want to stick around them. So I'm gonna do the best I can, and be as interesting as I can be as a person, because they intrigued me with like what they were doing. So I'm gonna do that, and and they think in those type of terms. And with that, like I said, they value their creativity, wisdom, and that is Mercury in the second house for all the signs. Next week, I have Mercury and Venus for all the signs on Friday. So be cool on the corner.